Teoria. Salutations gamers, Provi the plant here. Before we start, I just need to say, I wanted to name this video something far more pretentious, something like, I fixed Minecraft's combat. And I almost did, but no, I thought it would be too misleading. For something to be fixed, it must first be broken. I didn't fix Minecraft's combat, I enhanced it. Now, if you're seriously watching Minecraft mod showcases in the year of our Nijika 2024, then you probably already know about Better Combat and Epic Fight, the two huge combat mods that overhaul the system and have grown their own modded ecosystems. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just look at literally any weapon mod, most of them are compatible with one of the two. But you may have also noticed that there is nothing along those lines for the Vanilla Plus experience. There are a lot of various combat, magic, and weapon mods, but nothing that truly aligned with my vision of what it means to be Vanilla Plus, and most of these mods don't really offer much in terms of compatibility, which is mostly what I'm going for here. My response is Combat Plus, a series of highly compatible mods, each connected via the compatibility layer Combat Plus Core, and each expanding some aspect of the combat system. We have dual swords, extra damage enchantments, additional armoury, and extended enchanting. But before I dive into each one, I want to lay some groundwork so my design decisions have context, and I also therefore don't really get comments saying, "Why didn't you do this, Provi?" No. I plan things, quite a lot actually. Firstly, Minecraft's meta, if you can really call it that, is completely homogeneous. At endgame, everyone has netherite, everyone has protection 4, and with the slight exception of smite versus sharpness, everyone has chosen the exact same enchantments. I want to change this, and add some build variety to Minecraft. Simply put, a game about creativity should let you be creative in how you kill things. And, unlike in real life, you should have the ability to make meaningful decisions. Second piece of context. Vanilla Plus mods should be those that try to stick to the design style of Minecraft. Jeb's not-so-secret design book, which you can apparently find in a Swedish library archive, outlines some of these rules, but there's nothing in it about combat. I read the thing, so I've extrapolated some rules of my own. The player has items, not powers. I'm not going to give the player something like a dodge roll or new active keys. If I want to give some new ability to the player, it must be done through an item. For example, the player cannot teleport, but you can teleport by throwing an ender pearl. No two weapons are the same. This rule has two meanings. On one hand, any new weapon must be mechanically different from existing options. For example, swords and axes are different because swords can sweep and axes can break shields. Every edition must introduce a new idea. On the other hand, this rule also means two weapons cannot be the same idea. Swords already exist, I can't add scimitars or sabers. Axes already exist, I can't add battle axes. Keep it simple. It must be reasonably intuitive what something does. Tooltips, advancements, and sometimes even particle effects can be used to indicate what an item does. The player should not need a wiki. And lastly, it needs to feel vanilla. Combat skill should carry over into modded contexts. This means no offhand attacking, no delayed animations, no game, no life, no season 2, just you, your mouse, and your carpal tunnel. And right before I start talking about the actual content, I need to address the compatibility layer in the room. Combat Plus Core is the glue that binds this operation together. The two major things it does is providing some convenient hooks, or weapons that have a variety of on-hit effects, and worming its way into the code for the damage enchantments, because, to be completely frank, the vanilla implementation is kind of atrocious. And I had better ideas. For gameplay tweaks, Combat Plus Core also adds game rules, for whether swords should sweep without sweeping, and for whether loyalty tridents should stay in your inventory and go on cooldown instead of leaving your inventory and then coming back in a different inventory spot, which is annoying. Combat Plus creates two categories of weapons: melee weapons and dual weapons. The former subsumes the latter. Melee weapons are a generic class of weapon used for melee combat. They have effects on charged hit, on crit, and on kill. Dual weapons are a subset of melee weapons that should be considered compatible for any dual-wielding mechanics. This is only actually used by dual swords, but, you know, the whole point of a compatibility layer is that technically speaking, in the future there could be more. These groupings are done in the code, and also in data packs. For reasons that should honestly be quite obvious, to be honest, on-hit effects and dual-wielding mechanics are related to code and not data pack tags. How would you do that? But for weapons from other mods, the tags are still useful because they affect the compatibility of various enchantments. Combat Plus also creates a number of enchantment types. These are just for categorization purposes and a little bit of housekeeping, so that way if anyone else ever makes an enchantment mod using this system, it's automatically compatible with every other enchantment mod that's also using this system. Additional damage enchantments increase damage dealt under certain conditions. They're just an upgraded version of the vanilla damage enchantments, frankly. They just have access to more features. Weapon utility enchantments either enhance a weapon's existing on-hit effect, or grant it a new one. For context, if Sweeping Edge was made by me, it would be a weapon utility. Aspect enchantments modify the user or the target's status in some way. This does not include status effects. Offhand enchantments are a miscellaneous group, specifically for offhanded dual weapons. They have a built-in grouping mechanic for their own intercompatibility, so they can come in sets. And finally, with all of that context out of the way, God, I hope you people actually watched this part of the video, it's time to talk about the real mods. I've already made a video on dual swords, but a lot was changed to work with Combat Plus, so I'll just explain it again anyway. Dual Swords is a mechanical expansion to the mod series, adding dual-wielding mechanics that actually fit into the vanilla game. All dual weapons grant a damage bonus when held in the offhand. What truly lets you clear Aincrad, however, are the enchantments. Excluding Daisho, there are two types of enchantments added by dual swords: parry types and lunge types. The parry enchantment allows you to parry and counter attacks. Higher levels of this enchantment will increase the active window of your parry. Parrying an attack will also activate on-hit effects from the weapon that you parried with. This includes on-hit enchantment and on-hit weapon effects. Successfully parrying an attack will deal damage to the attacker and reflect certain projectiles such as arrows and tridents. Specifically, it's any projectile that stays in the world after you reflect it, because these are the only ones that actually bounce off of shields and other blocking type actions. Riposte is a parry type enchantment. It will increase the damage of your counterattack. Deflection is a new alternative added with Combat Plus. Higher levels will increase the return speed of deflected projectiles. As for the charm points of the parry types, any item enchanted with parry will render upside down. You'd think this little detail would be simple to implement, but no, I assure you, dear viewer, this took far longer to implement than anything else in this video. Lunge is instead very offensively focused. The enchantment grants your weapon a use action. You can burst forwards and damage the first mob hit. Higher levels of lunge will increase the speed and the distance of the attack. Similarly to parry, if you lunge a mob and successfully hit them, you will activate any on-hit effects from your weapon or its enchantments. The lunge enchantments include thrusting and forceful. What? Oh, I am saying that out loud for the first time. I'm realizing what I did. Thrusting increases your lunge damage, whereas forceful drastically increases the knockback of the lunge. Like the Lone Wanderer it was inspired by, Daisho sits in the middle. not belonging to either sets. It increases your attack damage, but only when holding 2 dual weapons. Daisho is incompatible with the 2 damage boosting enchantments, Riposte and Thrusting. Daisho is a rare enchantment, only found in certain chests and Hero of the Village gifts. If you're playing with data packs, however, you don't have to worry about any data loss. Unless you change the config, the mod should insert Daisho even into loot tables overridden by data packs. Also, and this should be obvious, all the parry type enchantments are incompatible with all the lunge type enchantments, and vice versa. Even more obvious is the fact that all of these enchantments are compatible with dual weapons, even the ones purely defined via data pack tags. Though you'll get far more use out of ones that are defined via code, such as swords and another weapon in this video. The second mod that I retrofitted into the Combat Plus system. I've already mentioned extra DE twice on this channel now, but it really needs a formal introduction. Consider this a sales pitch for possibly my most misunderstood mod. Has this ever happened to you? Oh no, I'm playing this mod pack with all these new goons to fight, but my smite sword is completely worthless because they aren't undead, and sharpness just doesn't cut it. Gets killed by a dragon. In vanilla Minecraft, smite is a valuable tool since many of the mobs are undead. Well, to be fair, most of the mobs you would care about fighting on a regular basis are undead. But once you start adding a few modded mobs, this stops being the case. The game is far more interesting when you have the power to prepare against specific threats. Damage enchantments deal increased damage to certain entity groups. These are hidden groupings defined in the source code. Undead, arthropod, aquatic, villager, don't ask. They don't need their own group, I don't know why they have one. Smite deals more damage to the undead. Bane of Arthropods deals more damage to arthropods. Impaling targets aquatic mobs, and Sharpness is kinda crap, but it's actually just universal. Extra DE takes this system and expands on it, adding 5 additional groups, and converting the entire thing into a data pack tag system. The new groups each come with new enchantments that target them. Humanoid mobs consist of civilized mobs, like villagers and piglins. They are weak to rebel. Arcane mobs are those that you could consider magical in nature, such as blazes and golems. They are weak to unravel. Outer-worldly mobs are related to the end, or more generally, the void, portals, etc. Void Render hits them the hardest. Fungifloral mobs are either plant-based, such as creepers, or fungus-based, such as the Warden. They take more damage from herbicide. Beastly mobs are animals, or even just large creatures made of meat. You can butcher these ones. There's also a convenient game rule that nerfs all of this damage when it's used against players, or buffs it if you enjoy comedy in your servers. Fun fact, and the only reason this even needs to be a Combat Plus mod is specifically because the enchantment system is written so awfully, so downright atrociously, that the only way to add the game rule without compatibility issues was to take advantage of the fact that I already replaced the enchantment's damage code in the Combat Plus library. Mojang, please. As for the tags, any of the vanilla groups or the new groups can be assigned to a mob via a data pack tag. This is what solidifies Extra DE as not just being a basic enchantment mod, but a mod pack utility tool. It has the power to create an actual sense of cohesion in a mod pack. You can have one overarching enchantment system that works against all of the mobs in your mod pack. This feature might sound vaguely familiar if you're keeping up to date with the 1.20.5 snapshots. It's the same system. I simply did it first over 2 years ago. Now, I highly doubt anyone from Mojang actually saw my niche mod and thought to implement it in vanilla, but I will take any ego boost I can get, and if anyone dares to say to me, Provi, you don't really understand Minecraft's game design, then I will redirect them to this moment in history and chuckle. Yes, I made 2 separate enchantment mods. Yes, they have wildly different aims. Extended Enchanting extends the enchanting system. It's also a major avenue of player choice and agency. It adds 19 different enchantments. The goal here was to create new gameplay opportunities and provide some nice quality of life. The weapon enchantments are categorized by Combat Plus's system, which I already explained, but I know damn well people are gonna be jumping around the video with the YouTube chapters anyway, so here they are. Additional damage, which just increases the damage dealt. It's an alternative to standard damage, but I needed to name it something that wasn't what the vanilla game was using. In an anvil, these can be applied to any melee weapon. Weapon utility. These modify, improve, or add unique effects to a weapon. If the vanilla game was reincarnated into another world with my S tier foresight ability, then Sweeping Edge would be a weapon utility enchantment. These can be applied to any melee weapon in an anvil or enchantment table. Aspect. Anything that applies or modifies a state to the user or the target. I've intentionally avoided status effects for various reasons. And these are only available to swords at the moment, just like how fire aspect works. That might change one day. An item can only have one of each type of enchantment. There's a lot to go through, and I don't see much point in lingering on any one of them for too long, so here's a quick breakdown. For your weapon enchantments, we have Glass deals increased damage when you are at full health. Initiative deals increased damage when your opponent is at full health. Solitude massively increases damage dealt when no other enchantments are present on the weapon. It is also, conveniently, incompatible with every other enchantment. Feint makes you jump backwards after striking. This is compatible with off-handed weapons. Rampage grants you strength and speed on each kill. Dual Strike lets you hit a secondary target on each swing. This even activates your weapons on hit effects for the secondary target too. Leeching Aspect heals you every time you deal a critical hit. Frost Aspect partially freezes the target on each hit. Lightning Aspect builds up static charge on the target. Enough charge will cause a shock that bypasses armor and invulnerability. Launch knocks your target into the air. For armor, there are 2 new protection enchantments, a new curse, and a new enchantment category for chest pieces. Weapon protection is slightly stronger than regular protection, but it only protects you from damage dealt by melee weapons, or more specifically, people who are holding melee weapons. Combustion protection is a combination of fire and blast protection. It is weaker than either of them individually though. And Curse of Chorus will teleport you randomly when you're attacked. Next are Heart Enchantments. Heart Enchantments are a rare new type of enchantment only found in select locations. But, as a trade-off, their effects will rapidly drain your durability. Heart of the Sun will regenerate your health and ignite attackers when you're exposed to sunlight. Heart of the Moon will periodically reset your insomnia timer, this prevents phantoms from spawning, and apply slowness to attackers when in moonlight. Heart of Brimstone will grant increased speed and health regeneration when you are on fire in the Nether. Heart of the Void is only active in the end. It makes you immune to fall damage, and if you fall to the Void, you will be yeeted back out and onto wherever you were before then. Finally, you can do a little farming as a treat. Hoes get the replanting enchantment. It replants crops that you break. It also prevents you from breaking crops that aren't ready yet. Note, as far as mod compatibility goes, this works with anything that extends crop block from the source code, i.e. anything that is taking its code from wheat. In the vanilla game, that is wheat, carrots, potatoes, and beetroots. Soil Walker goes on your boots and prevents you from trampling the soil. There's a lot of very intentional synergy between some of these options, you may have noticed as I was explaining them. But there's more to come, because next is... Don't ask why 2 of these mods just randomly have alliterative titles. I wanted to make catchy names for them, and it sort of just worked out like this. I've saved the clickbait thumbnail mod for last. This is Additional Armoury. It adds more melee weapons, more ranged weapons, including a small magic system, and 2 new materials. Starting with the weapons, we have daggers, inspired by this piece of childhood trauma specifically. They're faster than swords and deal less damage, but what really matters is their unique ability. You can apply lingering potions to daggers, just as you would with arrows. The number of potions in the recipe is variable, but you will get 8 hits per potion added. Each fully charged attack with a dagger will apply 1 use of its potion. Daggers get their own unique enchantments too. Adhesive will make the potion last forever, but it's incompatible with mending and will drain durability for each potion attack. Splatter is like sweeping but for daggers. It will apply the potion effect to all mobs near your target. This will drain remaining potion uses per mob, or durability if you've paired it with adhesive. Daggers are also dual weapons, meaning they are fully compatible with every single thing added by dual swords. Parrying or lunging with a dagger will apply the on-hit potion effect. The next melee weapon is the mace. Yes, I know. Shut up. I made this before the 1.21 snapshots, okay? My rule of do not add weapons that already exist was not broken, because it did not already exist. The mace is designed as an anti-armor weapon. Critical hits inflict a unique status effect that reduces armor points by 25%. It's slower and hits harder than an axe, but it cannot break shields, so you have to use it cautiously. The mace gets 2 unique enchantments. Shredding will increase the strength of the debuff, making your opponent lose even more armor points, whereas Dismantle will instead deal damage to all armor your target is wearing. These 2 enchantments are classified as weapon utility, and therefore aren't compatible with each other or other weapon utility enchantments, such as the ones from Extended Enchanting. Just like in real life, the mace excels in removing armor from the equation, letting you get stronger hits in with your other weapons. It's directed mostly towards PvP, but given that this is apparently a thing now, also shulkers, it's rather niche, but an extremely useful weapon. Next are ranged weapons. First, we have the ever so satisfying boomerang. The boomerang is a unique item found only in desert and jungle temples. Imagine making these things actually relevant. Couldn't be me. The boomerang's gimmick is its ricochet mechanic and its cooldown reset. So instead of being cringe and leaving your inventory like a trident would, boomerangs instead go on cooldown when thrown. The cooldown is rather long, but it's refreshed if you catch your boomerang. If your boomerang is airborne for too long, it will return to you, but if it hits a wall or a mob, it will bounce off and keep going. The final ricochet always takes it back to the player, but by default, a boomerang only has 1 ricochet anyway. So this is where the enchantments come in. The ricochet enchantment increases the number of bounces a boomerang can make before returning. If possible, a boomerang will try to aim itself at a nearby enemy. Otherwise, it will smoothly deflect off of walls or randomly deflect off of mobs. The boomerang has a couple more enchantments. Multi-throw is incompatible with ricochet, but throws multiple boomerangs at once. Only the central one resets your cooldown though. Discus increases the maximum flight time of a boomerang. Strong Arm increases boomerang damage, but is incompatible with Discus. If you're a big fan of shadows, wizards, money, or perhaps you just love casting spells, then the next weapon is for you. Staves work very differently to your typical ranged weapon. Firstly, their effect depends entirely on whatever enchantment they hold. And secondly, a staff is not used on release like bows and tridents. Instead, each spell has a certain charge time and will be cast instantly and automatically as soon as it is ready. This means that your spell slinging proficiency is reliant on your timing. As you can see, the durability of a staff is blue. This does not work like regular durability. Instead, this is the number of spell casts remaining. And instead of shattering under the height of magic, the staff simply disenchants and you can bring it back to the enchanting table to get a new spell. Each spell has its own quirks. Fireball deals fire damage and will leave blocks burning. Frostball deals ice damage, which is super effective to most nether mobs. It can also freeze things. Boosting and soaring are movement utilities. Boosting can be used as a gap closer or as an escape tool. Soaring can be used as a super jump, or the world's worst MLG that technically works everywhere but has really awful timing. Gale is the only spell to fire multiple projectiles, and it blows away distant mobs. Eruption shakes the ground around you and knocks away nearby enemies. Ghostly Orb can no-clip through blocks. Missile is rather magical, in that it's impossible to dodge. And lastly, there is one spell not available through the table, one so lucrative that it must be earned through exploration. Bakaretsu Maho. It gets you banned from the Adventurers Guild. Oh hey look, it's the thing from the thumbnail. The final addition is 2 extra materials for your armor and weapons. When Mojang added netherite, they did something rather interesting. They gave it knockback resistance. In other words, they opened the door for other armor types to grant secondary attributes. My 2 new materials take this idea and expand upon it. If you consider netherite to be heavy, then you can consider overnether to be bulky, and ender nether to be light and fast. Both of the new ingots are made by taking netherite scraps and mixing them from materials unique to the other dimensions. Overnether is made from scraps from the nether and echo shards from the overworld. Ender nether is made from scraps from the nether and popped chorus fruit from the end. Overnether armor grants extra health. A full set will net you 3 additional hearts. The weapons, however, deal the same damage as diamond, but instead will have stronger knockback. Ender nether armor increases your movement speed. A full set will give you 30% movement speed increase. This is the equivalent to sprint jumping, but you don't have to jump. You're faster if you do. Fuck this stupid. Similar to overnether, the weapons deal the same damage as diamond, but this time, ender nether weapons will have increased attack speed. And of course, there are no set bonuses. These values that I've just given are just the totals. You have the power to mix and match all 3 netherite armors as much as you wish. Allow me to rev the engines on your synapses and edge that aneurysm of yours, because it's time to talk about synergy. From the outset, I wanted to diversify the Minecraft meta and create more avenues for player agency. I will force you to make decisions and you will like it. So, if you like PvP but hate having friends, then here are some builds. Run full ender nether armor, a gale staff plus any other ranged weapon, and an overnether sword with a knockback and feint. This crime against humanity lets you play the ultimate keep away game as you hand out restraining orders with the same frequency that you disappoint your parents. Ender nether armor, a netherite sword with a rampage and initiative, and suddenly you have a one-shot frenzy build. Each kill will refresh your strength and speed. And with initiative adding onto the damage, you should be able to OHKO most mobs. Alternatively, you could be funny. You could fully embrace the ways of Megamin and run a mixture of blast protection and regular protection over nether armor, with the staff of an Arc Wizard. Bonus points if you can hit your opponents with slowness beforehand or otherwise hide during the casting duration. Hopefully by now you get the point though. There are a lot of different builds and playstyles that you can put together. You don't even need to download all of the mods if you don't want to. Should though. Although each mod is highly compatible with the others, they only ever communicate via the compatibility layer. So you're free to pick and choose, all of them hopefully, which mods you add to your mod list. As per the usual, Combat Plus Core, extra damage enchantments, dual swords, extended enchanting, and additional armory are all available on Fabric, and you can, and should, download them on CurseForge or Modrinth. Furthermore, Modrinth has a collections feature now, so I have prepared a collection of all the Modrinth entries for Combat Plus. It's linked in the description. Like everything's linked in the description. Play my mods.